Soki Chonamla, Chanchu Padu Dani Kyapsu Chi, Dagi Junyan Gi Pesonam Gi, Jola Penche Sangi Jupacho, Sanji Chodam Soki Chonamla, Chanchu Padu Dani Kyapsu Chi, Dagi Junyan Gi Pesonam Gi, Jola Penche Sangi Jupacho, Chodam Soki Chonamla, Chanchu Padu Dani Kyapsu Chi, Dagi Junyan Gi Pesonam Gi, Jola Penche Sangi Jupacho.
big benefit, not just temporary benefit, right? Also, they talk about
the actual, real.
Real. If it is yes or not, they give us to freedom, you can check. No one judge.
Yeah.
Judge.
Yeah.
Judge. No one judge. Buddha doesn't judge us. Right? Buddha said, I did, that kind of practice, meditation, then I achieve enlightenment. If you like, if you're interested, do that. If right now, you can check. They will not be able to check. Anybody do daily practice, Even I maybe this much done. I do almost 20 years. I don't get any results. Then you guys also maybe, I don't know, maybe not. You go to visit some very high teachings. Not this world. Buddhism highest teaching, the whole Dalai Lama, eventually is teaching many times. Also we receive a lot high teachings, right? But we are always the same. Not much change. Right? Then we check, why? What is happening? Even, I think, I do my practice a lot, No very bad, good, not too bad, Maybe compare, maybe some you guys maybe do, maybe the senior students, get balance?
Yeah, the elder students.
Maybe they're better than me, but maybe newest ones, maybe I'm better, but I'm still same. That what's wrong? I didn't do much effort. I didn't do much practice, real. Also I saw this documentary, maybe you guys heard. One Lama, he passed away last couple months. I know he's from Sarah. He lives in Australia. New Zealand. His name is Tutan Rinpoche. After he passed away, then he took the road.
Yeah, he entered Tukdom. Tukdom is like a meditative state which advanced practitioners enter into at the point of death, which kind of prolongs the process of actually dying. So according to Western medicine, they would be considered dead because there's no respiration or heartbeat. But according to the Tibetan tradition, they are still present in their body meditating. So the body doesn't decay.
Yeah.
So you may have heard about that before.
Then he meditated 18 days. Then newspaper come in. Then his daughter, they ask his daughter, then newspaper come, then what's going on, what's wrong. Also they interviewed to Dalai Lama. Also, what's that? Dalai Lama also, okay, you guys to check, now scientists tend to check. Tibetan, Tibetan Buddhism is not very surprised. We have this practice. Before we die, we learn these things, meditation. Then we die. Who's the person who died, they know when he died, what's going on. People will study practice. Then they can do real meditation.
Yeah. So I think what he's trying to say is that the practices that they learn in their life detail kind of the process of dying. So it's not a surprise when it happens. You can recognize the death process and enter into meditation during it, whereas an untrained person may have anxiety or they can't remain calm enough to do anything when they realize they're dying.
Also, anyway, then the scientist to come, then ask many questions. Also, they ask his daughter, when you give to his death, after you give that, then did he change his body? Is it any small? He do many times. Then he said, I give that, but it's not usual person to die. But this kind of things, if you really practice, you do effort, and the result easily, And also, I have some other story. In Sarah, one Geshe, when Sarah, everybody says he's very bad Geshe. Bad Geshe, very, very lazy. He doesn't do practice. We see, Also, he's a little sensual, madness.
Oh yeah, Senacho. He's very miserly. Yeah. He doesn't share.
He likes to eat. Everybody say, oh, then he means, he is in the same Geshe-la, maybe two class younger, or say, Lord Geshe-la.
Oh, yeah.
But in Sarah, everybody say, oh, he's very bad Geshe. No one pay attention for him. After he passed away, he also meditation maybe, I think, 21 days, something like this. Also, people, we don't know. We cannot judge, it's very bad, it's good, whatever they inside their practice. This kind also, we can see easily, but this is also a result to practice. Meditation, result. We can see. Also, sometimes, if meditation doesn't matter. Also, sometimes they Tibetan also they explain to some also bad way.
Things which aren't good.
Yeah. And some susu nye pinja tang yamana chala do kamba do tidela chale. Ya nyama mombola ya. Ta tudon ke da malo re na. Ta kachinde.
Yeah, so some people on the other hand have, although they may, these people too, maybe they practice in their life, right?
Maybe not practice, but they are very strong attached to
it. They have attachment to a lot of things, like belongings, friends, family members. And then when it's time to die, like at the time of death, there's no way that they can do tukdam.
Certain consciousness cannot go away.
Subtle.
When we say tukdam, we say
yeah, so during tukdam, the rough consciousness, these are kind of like distinctions that they make between like layers of consciousness. When you are born and pass away, they kind of go through stages from like the rough layers, right, the gross layer, and then the very subtle layers are much deeper below the sense of me being somebody, or my name is Andy or something.
Yeah.
So
therefore this certain consciousness, subtle consciousness, sometimes they meditate to emptiness or happiness. Sometimes there's subtle consciousness touched to the conditions, then they doesn't go away. If I don't know if you go to them or not, they're not. I'm going to Tibet and not express.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. So I think what he's saying is, in some cases, people enter tukdam, which means they enter the meditation at the point of death, so their body remains a long time. But in other cases, people may be simply attached to a lot of things. So their subtle consciousness doesn't actually depart the body because they are hanging on, like because they can't let go. So either way, it's not surprising to Tibetans, like this kind of phenomenon. So then they say, like, from the point of view of practice, whether someone tukdam la dene. Yeah. Okay. So you can't really say whether it's good or bad. Like they entered into tukdam, it's good, or they didn't enter into tukdam, that's bad. You can't really say. So.
Also, one result. Just yesterday, one Lama in Tibet, he passed away. His body is there. 1 month, 8 days. There's no smile. It's summertime in Tibet also. There's not any heat, right? What's that? Accumulation. 1 month, 8 days. I think they maybe yesterday or day before yesterday, then they make fire. Also very small. This kind of things, I think maybe good way. Also, a couple of years ago, one Lama is also coming here. After he passed away, then I don't know how many days, his body is smaller. Last, he left just little hair and nails. Their whole body was gone.
Disappeared.
This is not too long, very hundreds of thousands of people before story, people can see, just out. Nanduka.
Yeah, in our own time.
Is that a rainbow body when they just leave the nails in the hair?
Tante, today the 말했어.
The chalu.
끈절이 들어가네.
Yeah, he's saying they call that the rainbow body.
야, 끈절이 들어가네. 근데 다 두조 영화들 간제 간주 body study Buddhism have something meaning.
연결성을 간데
항상 어디 가라. 로좀 욕도 욕도하고서 그 머리가 instead of same body.
boring.
Yeah, body.
욕도. Okay. Yeah.
제가 로좀 욕도. 다 냠내 욕도들. 지어와 있나? 뭐니 지어와 있나? 그거 때대 욕받을 거고.
So if you do practice which is boring, but you are consistent and just really practice it, actually you can achieve the result. You can obtain the result. So at the time while you are practicing, it seems boring, but you will be able to obtain the result.
I know. Always come to class, most same talk. Same study, very boring. This is a nature, 이나야. 뭐니 수수기 냐면도 로좀 지어 있나? 다 저거 이거 다 때내려.
So if you really, however, if you really apply yourself to the practice and consistently do it, in actually lokchong, right, study. So if you apply yourself to study, you will obtain the result.
Meditation, practice, right? Then usually we don't know who's Buddha, whether he's Buddha, Buddha. We doesn't saw one day Buddha come to enlightenment, but Buddha is someone we just heard. We call lineage.
Yeah.
We call lineage. Now we don't know who is Buddha. We just have 만두지라 산지 좀 전에 산지가 또 만두지 생활만 was.
So we, our teachers and us, we don't even have a direct, valid perception of a real Buddha achieving enlightenment. We've just heard that. It just comes down to us.
개개수 찌리찌리 말하다 그러서 일단 나와 산지 쪽에는 산지에다 다라 부다에다 스메르스 부다에다 나도 남들도 그러고.
So he's saying that like this is something that's just been passed down from one person to another, who's told each subsequent person there was a Buddha who achieved enlightenment, or medicine Buddha is a Buddha, or these are the Buddhas, or so on. But it's just something that's been passed down that we've never ourselves directly seen.
얘나야, 다 나중에 강은 냠내 제약이 삽제도가 소리 뛰고라 삼로 있다나 다 뭐니 사지에서 요살에 삼섭지 그걸 차통도 해서.
However, we do have the capacity to practice the things that are taught, and also to think about the content of what are contained in the teachings, whether they are actual or not actual, or if it makes sense that there would be a Buddha or not be a Buddha, I think on this basis.
아니 가서 상식의 셈사이시 이지사이시 배치 모습을 딱 라고요 was.
So it is said that Bodhisattva or bodhicitta and great compassion have great benefit. These are things that are often said.
Therefore, we check it is what?
It is true.
Is this true or not? If they have great benefit or not, we have to check. We have to think right. Also, Buddha teaching explain what is non-virtuous, what is virtuous. Then we can study, then we can check our mind is true. Our mind. This is very important. In other words, we say, oh, Buddha said this, my teacher said this. Then other people very nice talk come in, they talk different way. They say, oh, maybe this is not true. Yeah, I thought I didn't check before. Then you very easy to change your mind. And always very important to when you study, what books say, it's true or not. Debate by yourself is very important. So that's not.
Yeah, you have to investigate individually each thing by yourself.
Today the chene, that seme sema yen no muduna, that seme japta seme that japtu yoga as well.
So okay, let me try. Tseme gune ne, right?
And they not to come was. They come in to the lola, lo suchu no mar was. Seme never, they pumba.
Yeah.
Come the pumba and lo shituna. Come pumba my bat to lo to somebody no good was. Never do.
Tsema, correct.
Sema.
Tsema, it is tsema lohi.
Yeah, lo sema.
Lodan tsema, okay.
Sema goes.
Yeah, how so?
And then sema you to was. Sema eat in the mind, sema the kakashi.
Okay.
Chara entry, in my mind, sema to sema lo. Today that Karsana Kaman Yame Cheshawate Tata Imbala, Sema Shiba Manana, Tata Imbalis.
Okay. So basically what he's saying is although we don't have the direct perception of Buddhas or whatever right now, but by investigating these things, by checking them out, you can actually develop the perception. So you can develop the mind that understands, like validly understands that this is true or this isn't true. So you have, the example he was giving was like, you have here in front of him, he has a cup. And someone might say that's not a cup, or that's a cup. And by investigating, you develop the tema, the direct perception, the valid perception that has determined whether it is or isn't a cup. And you know, like with certainty, this is a cup. So in the same way, the things that we're taught, that we learn about, we only come to know with certainty whether they're correct or incorrect by investigating, by analyzing them.
Right? Then partly push it is too certain, we don't. Just we believe, we don't saw. But I saw this morning, yesterday, show. One lady, do you remember? She has, the one show, they talk, a couple ladies.
Oh yeah, the view.
The view.
Okay, so Geshe-la was watching The View.
Yeah. She has the curly hair.
She means Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg, she speak with the Dalai Lama, what this
Right, in DC, yeah.
I think yesterday or this morning, I saw the two women. They both know, remember them. Past life and future life. And they, they do, I don't know if it's true or not. Then the two other women told her, they could that.
Whoopi Goldberg.
The black lady, she was many, I think, 8 centuries. And Germany, nuns. What you say?
A nun?
A nun. Anyway, then, I don't know, anyway, they talk about past life, future life, I don't know if it's true or not. And now, the past, future life also show, on the TV, people can talk. Before, just only Buddhism, maybe say, other people doesn't believe that. Now, maybe people have more interest. They say, oh, you are you're nun. Then, I think 8th century he told, German nun. Anyway, maybe one day, scientists show the past, future life very easy. Then maybe one day they show Buddha. Maybe also, more easy to go to Buddha out. Easier than Buddhism. No, I don't think this is not possible.
I don't think so either. It's hard to imagine the Buddha injection or something.
Anyway, this some, we have to usually something we need to learn, investigation, always this teach us to, very important investigation, follow the Nagarjuna, not just blind faith.
Blind faith, not just blind faith.
And we can also check a little bit good, otherwise we don't know about. I studied Buddhism 20 years, still I'm 7%, then they give up. It's not, yung misipa mares. Yung misipa mares. Ngay namba lo, usually lo rucha.
Yung misipa?
Yung misipa.
Yung misipa, okay.
Ngay namba.
Yeah.
Nachu lo yung, lo yushe chiwa.
Yung misipa means like it doesn't, it's not possible that it will ever happen. So he's saying it's not like that. You may feel that way, but it's not like that.
And then, lo yung to the children. We have to continue practice, continue meditation. It's very important. And also sometimes you need to investigation what you cheap or not. In other words, you really cheap maybe renunciation that you don't know. Right?
What you like?
Maybe you really cheap the renunciation, but you don't know.
Reach.
Reach or say reach.
Achieve.
He's saying like perhaps you may have achieved renunciation, but you're not aware that you have.
But you
So
don't know.
you need to check the text says about that. The thingy, and the definition of renunciation.
If you have not the definition, then you check your minds. Or very close the definition, maybe you're very close to reach the renunciation, compassion, bodhicitta. Today by that time, okay. Then also 나주 로조 집에 그대로 가거나 다 타바도 틀리지 봐. 강지 토야. 제대로.
So in order for us to train, we need to know the method by which tarpa toba.
말. 다른 나주 나주 냐는 제 고바. 가나 타바도 단추 제가 강지 토야. 제대로.
Yeah. So how to achieve tarpa?
Yeah.
And
and
omniscience. So in order to practice and work our way toward the goal, we need to know like what are the steps, what's the system by which liberation, freedom, and omniscience are achieved.
그리고 근데 다 타와 토발라 타와 통지로 모두라고 그래서 타와 토발라 타와 토발 뇌별로.
So the mind, and then Geshe-la. Okay.
If you wish to.
Yes. Opposite.
Yeah.
So in order to practice, you must have a mind which wishes to achieve liberation. So.
이제 랑 제리체다. 그리고 코아당에서 동안에 단도질로. 지모만이면 남겨나 또 내주게 버렸어. 지모만은 어렸어. 랑다 신기.
Yeah, the then Chimamaimbe Geshe-la.
지모만이로 남. When you have this mind, then you reach the renunciation.
So what he just said, plus I should tell you what the mind he said you should have. So when you have a mind which ceaselessly wishes for the benefit of oneself and others, and the cessation of the suffering of samsara for both oneself and others, then you have renunciation.
Right? Now this kind of mind, how can it come? 타와도 던진 집에 윤대 좋아이나 뭐는 주말 좋아다. 이제 바쁘 좋아이나 다 어떻다니 어디 좋다니 다 그랬어.
얘기할 수 있는
타와도 던진 집에 윤대 타와 그랬어. And without someone talk about benefit or
So the benefits and qualities of liberation and Buddhahood, if someone talks about that to you and you have your hairs stand on end and tears come to your eyes and you have this very deep response,
close to renunciation,
then you are getting, he said before, you're middling, you're getting there.
Okay.
So
Also, you can think about how someone talk about what's the softness of all judgments. Then you are very strong feeling. That time you are very close to reach the renunciation. Right? Akoso? You understand?
Is
You guys
it-
have this?
is it clear?
No, say it again, please.
He's saying also, so he's gave the definition of renunciation, and in general he's talking about being able to determine if you have renunciation or not. So the definition itself, like you can check, is that how you are? Do you have the ceaseless wish to free yourself and other sentient beings from the suffering of samsara? So that's the renunciation. So if you have that, you've had renunciation. But on the other hand, if when people talk about liberation from suffering or omniscience of Buddhahood and the qualities of Buddhahood and liberation, you have this very deep response, like your hair standing on end and tears come into your eyes, and a very deep emotional response. You're getting there. And then even further he said, what was the second one? I forget because I was repeating.
What did I say? No, I don't know.
Just if someone talked about the definition.
Yeah.
Also, someone talk about that sentient
The
beings.
suffering of all sentient beings. So if someone talks about the suffering of all sentient beings and the sufferings of samsara, if you have a very deep emotional response to that, it's also a good sign, like you're working your way towards it. So.
Sometimes when we very angry, then the what's that?
The hair stand on
stand out. This is not good sign. 근데 다 들려도 오시나 간지 근데가 따도 제마도 용어이나 아니 다 민주주의라 다 원래 그랬어.
Tapansema. So the signs and tema, the definition or what? Name? Tema.
Some of us some signs come.
Yeah. So the appearance of signs. or
Appearance
what?
signs, appearance signs.
Yeah. So when the signs come, from the
When you have this
Tapansema,
Jawala then you are very close to reach the renunciation.
So when these types of signs appear, then you know you are getting close to achieving renunciation.
Sometimes we are very strong emotion. Someone talk about something, or sometimes we see we are very fed to some lama. We saw him, then we just want to cry. Just very strong emotion. Sometimes we have this, develop called pusna. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have this we have maybe experiment. Sometimes we just see something, some very strong emotion coming. That kind of emotion, when someone talk about quality of Buddhahood or liberation, Bodhisattva, compassion, or talk about softness or abundance, then you are very strong emotion, then you're very close to reach the renunciation. Then you have to remember, otherwise you really maybe path that you don't know where I'm going. Okay?
I was watching a movie the other night, Paul who was in prison. And he was always planning how to get out of prison. And he would run away, and they would catch him, and they would beat him, and they would put him in the black hole. And always, he'd get out, and all the guys would say, "You're still gonna," he would try again. He never gave up. And I was thinking of renunciation. Day and night, no matter how much he was punished, he was and that's what renunciation, day and night, I have to get out of here, I have to get out, no matter how much he suffered, I have to get out of here, I have to get out of here.
Yeah, this is good, this is good. With practice we have how much what's happened to them. Never stop. Go. Day or night. The one day we become different person. Okay, now we just wasted. Now we just very 소름 가살랍서 맞 대화 침묵으로 소름.
Yeah, there's one.
근데 다 변화서 지금 이렇게 와이나. 다 소름을 쉬고 그래서 소름.
So if you, once you generate renunciation, then you've entered the path of accumulation.
근데 저 남을 쉬고 그래서 다 남을 쉬고 그래서.
Then you have entered the path.
근데 다 남을 쉬고 나서 대체는 아주 대부분은 이유 없어.
So then once you've entered the path, there are the Hinayana paths and the Mahayana paths.
근데 람데 샹chấp sem 그 선나 대화치고.
So once you've generated the bodhicitta, then you've entered the Mahayana path.
아니 되게 마스바이나 다 이나이나 빠르죠.
If you haven't generated that, then you are on a Hinayana path.
근데 다 당도 소름 가서 올라서니까 이제 정말이 상태고 해서도 그래서 다 소름나 소름 친구 주선 다 대화치고다. 대화치고 소름 제 친구 주선 다 지주 손잡으랬어.
So in the path of accumulation of the Mahayana, there are 3 divisions: the small, middling, and great.
아니 다 중화대 가도 사도 빼셔 알았어. 살아 때는 다 잠블게 뜻상 메토 그거 깨고 와서 대화 친구 처음 중을 때니 다그 맞아 들었더니 또 대화 친구가 상대 위에 참 뭐에 빼려고 저래. 사도 집 말했어. 그래서 상승 총합 중요해지지. 충주해지지. 삼체다가 충주사대 다 당부 짓는 걸 충주.
Okay. So the very first, the very beginning of the Mahayana path is the small division of the path of accumulation of a Mahayana path, and then he was giving an example of like a metaphor for that, which was something like the ground in which the seed is planted.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, we call this kind of person as a bodhicitta. We call Sattva Senke.
Sattva Senke. Okay. So the sowing the mind of enlightenment. I don't know how you would say Sattva. Sattva means actually.
No, Sattva. Lulas. Sat is earth.
Oh, Sattva.
The Sattva. Lata to Tawaji.
Oh, so like
Sattva.
earth-like.
Yeah.
Earth-like.
Of
But
the
then he's
22
saying
types of
Sattva.
bodhicitta.
Yeah.
Sattva means like planting a seed.
Yeah.
So
Therefore-
Sattva. So earth-like.
Yeah. Because earth can be manzugo. Sayat wa mabola was. Sattva Shina.
Yeah. So because on the basis of the earth, we have all of the fruits of trees and plants and things that grow, which we can feed ourselves with, like fruits and grains and all of those things on the basis of the earth.
그래서 다 되네지. 다 그냥 쇼케로에다 좀 주면 다 인구가 지. 내가 똑같대 도잖아. 아니 좀 봐봤어. 좀 봐봤다 미러.
Yeah,
This first one, second.
In a shoge.
Lula chayno. Morning,
Uh-huh.
maybe morning here, then maybe afternoon maybe here, then night maybe here. No. 저는 질질면서 나 똑바. 남기 똑바. No. To member.
Yeah, higher and lower.
Higher level. Then small one, middle one, then higher one.
And encouraging shoge ning.
Example. First one,
Okay.
first they achieve the renunciation,
Mhm.
called small one. Then middle. Then before achieve the jolong, they call chimbo.
Yeah, okay. So I was confused why he's talking about morning, afternoon, and evening, but he was saying it's just an example. Like these three are called small, middle, and great, and basically it just shows the higher and lower, development of bodhicitta. So it's like, the sun rising in the morning, and then in the afternoon, and then reaching like the pinnacle of the sky or whatever. So it's an example of the increase of something.
Okay? 그래서 now what we call the mirror. 정말 누가 이제 생태를 이발했어. What the name?
So what's the name of a person who's generated the middling bodhicitta?
Not the name of the person, the name of the bodhicitta.
The name of the bodhicitta, yeah.
Bodhicitta like gold.
야, 무슨 뭐? 처럼 중이 가려야 처음 주주 많이 냐브로 요 시기요. 요 시버스. 시버스 is possible.
Yeah. Any young children see it?
처음 주주가 first one
Mm-hmm.
degenerate.
Mm.
It's possible to degenerate.
Mm.
Then mirror, then error.
You guys get that?
처럼 질바토나 아니 스타 셈 냠죠 냠을 말했어.
Okay, so he's saying like when you are in the small stage of the path of accumulation on the Bodhisattva path, it's still possible that you can deteriorate, like you could drop back down to lower levels from there. Once you have achieved the middling stage of the path of accumulation on the Bodhisattva path, it's no longer possible that you will degenerate from there.
Therefore, we call gold then, which is gold. Because gold, whatever we use gold, whatever we use, they never change gold. Right? Or color down, quality of gold.
Mm.
Then, the example, whatever we do, they never change the bodhicitta. Then the great one we call, what do you call?
Does anyone know what they call the great stage of the path of accumulation on a Bodhisattva's path?
Bodhicitta like the
Hi,
waxing
Viveka.
moon.
Someone's to do it also.
No.
Bodhicitta like the waxing moon.
Yeah, that was Tsepa, that was.
Yeah.
Tsepa chi, niga dawa diya, tomu chujini, Tsepa chokma chendo was.
Yeah, so in the first half of a month, the moon actually, in a Tibetan system, the first half of the month is just divided by the phases of the moon. The moon continuously waxes greater and greater and becomes more full.
Okay? Then, this is the before the chitta, jonam.
Yeah. All of this is before you've entered the path of, how do we say, preparation? Or okay.
Okay? Then, we did talk before this. Now today we go to the jonam.
So we're going to start with the path of preparation today.
Okay? This is too short, right? So the definition of a bodhisattva's path of preparation is the direct realization of the meaning of bodhicitta. Na hade chitta, that's jonam. That tamboni the ring is Thomas, tamboni ring was
Tambo. Meanings to Solam.
Tombo, tamboni the ring was not.
So for first, this passed a long time on the path of accumulation.
They didn't go to Mahayana path.
Right.
They just go straight the Mahayana path. There comes
Oh, Tamboni.
Tamboni.
Yeah.
Tamboni is Thomas.
Yeah. So first, there are different ways, right, that you can enter these paths. Some are through paths lower than this. So let's say you were a practitioner of a Hinayana path, and then you entered into a Mahayana path. That's one way. But he's giving the example now, someone who's entered from the very beginning into a Mahayana path, into the Mahayana path of accumulation. So then, so then they have to go through the 3 stages of the Mahayana path of accumulation, the small, medium, and great.
How they jump to
Sure. So then he's going to talk about how they transition. So this is the way in which they transition from one of the 5 paths of the Mahayana paths to another. So the way that they transition from the path of accumulation into the path of preparation is what he's going to talk about. Okay, so on the great path, the great section of the path of accumulation, I don't know exactly how he names it, it gets very wordy. Anyway, the great stage of the path of accumulation, or Mahayana path, they have obtained the awareness which realizes emptiness. Right? Tongani tope shine. Yeah. Oh, shine. So they enter the calm abiding, the serenity on the serenity meditation on emptiness.
You know, everybody, come over, everybody know that, everybody, a lot of times.
Shamatha.
Shamatha, or calm abiding, or serenity. There's a lot of different translations.
Some people have the come over to, see the car, see the Buddha statue, mount. This kind Bodhisattva, sheep the karma body of emptiness.
Does everyone understand?
Okay? Then doing that checking. Check,
Yeah.
checking, then 모르겠어요. 제덕이 좀 제덕이.
Jito, yeah, the subs, the
제바치.
chepa, yeah,
제바는 제네.
analyzing, yeah.
When you analyze it, then you chip here.
Ah, okay.
돈이라는 한도.
Yeah. But in shine chiudu?
Shine, he checking,
Yeah.
then he when he
That's locked on, right?
then 한도.
Yeah.
제덕이 좀 here.
Okay. So basically he's saying like once they have achieved the calm abiding meditation on emptiness, they begin to analytically kind of probe the emptiness, which changes the meditation into lakton, the vipassana. So
향토 남토바나
mm,
아니 샤도 좀 저도 그랬어.
once they've obtained the practice of doing lakton on that emptiness, they've immediately transferred into the path of preparation.
근데가 근데 총아바디 돈이라는 얘기를 향토 토바. 대치지 좀 저도 봐. 공식으로 또 되냐면
Yeah, here's the Tonitobe.
돈이 토바 향토 토바.
예,
대신 좀 토바.
음.
아니 공식으로 돈이라는 공식. 공식 그랬지.
Yeah, Gongshu.
야, 공발식으로. 공식으로. 이거 삼중 실업
Gongju.
야, 돈이라는 거 공식으로 또 되냐면 삼중.
Okay, so at the same time that they achieve the meditation, the analytical meditation, the lakton meditation, vipassana, or what's the insight meditation on emptiness, they also obtain the mind which arises, the lo or shira, gongjun lo,
야, 공식 실업, 공식로.
chikpari, right? So they also achieve the wisdom arisen from meditation on emptiness at the same moment.
오케이. 먼저야, 투성 공성이와
Yeah, so there are the three types of learning that they use in Buddhist practice. Listening, like we're doing now, contemplation, like thinking about or reflecting on something, and meditation. And all of those three also produce a unique type of wisdom. So there's the wisdom arisen from listening, the wisdom arisen from reflection or contemplation, and the wisdom arisen from meditation. So he's saying that they achieve the wisdom arisen from meditation on emptiness at the same moment that they achieve the insight meditation on emptiness, and at the same moment that they transition from a Mahayana path of accumulation, the great phase of the Mahayana path of accumulation, into the Mahayana path of preparation.
이거. 대단한 거 배나. 투중 실업잖아. 또 소럽지. 즉도 뭐 틀리.
Right, yeah.
중실업, 투중 실업.
So the
또 소럽지 된 뭐 투중 실업. 아니 삼중 실업. 아니 삼대 담보 연치지. 아니 띵에다 고발도 실업. 아니 공중 실업.
Okay, so he's saying, he's giving some explanation of these three types of wisdoms that arise from listening, reflection, and meditation. So the wisdom arisen from listening is the type of wisdom that you develop from listening to teachings. Like they give you teachings and you hear the words of them and you start accumulating some knowledge. The wisdom arisen from reflection is when you start contemplating the meaning of the teachings that you've been given. When you start turning them over in your mind, then you develop the wisdom arisen from contemplation or reflection on the teachings. And the wisdom arisen from meditation is the wisdom arisen from the Samten Tangbone.
담보 연치지.
Yeah, so basically from all of the meditations from the first jhana up. So any other types of meditation from first jhana up. So that would include the jhanas. I think that includes Shine and Matong and all of these. So.
Okay. 내가 다 장승 전화를 따면 또 전화 나가리 이제 찬들 나가리. 장승 전화.
장승 전화당.
위콜 선들 전화. 선들 위콜 이제 찬들. 인주 찬들 이래.
Sorry.
maybe they don't. 가자마자 전화 나가리 전화.
Yeah, in most cases this is called the path of preparation, but there's another name for it that they use, which I didn't understand.
It's okay. Understand that no big deal.
It's not a big deal.
근데 전화면서 같이 동반 인해서 또비 남라 걸레게 거기서 그냥 전화 제 무서워 치죠 내 돈을 봐.
음.
내내 또 받으면서 또 봐. 다 내내야 가려져도 요놈스. 또 받으면서 또 봐. 가려 잡시면 내가 요놈스. 요놈이 내가 요놈스.
He's telling me why it's called the path of preparation. And if I understood correctly, you are saying because the stages that you go through, there are 4, right? So the...
5.
Or 5?
No, 4.
4.
When they achieve the 5, then they...
Yeah, so... Yeah, once they complete the 4th, once they complete these 4, when they pass to the next thing after the 4th, that's the direct realization of emptiness. So it's you can realize emptiness indirectly prior to that, but this one is like a direct realization of emptiness, which is also the path of seeing, right?
Therefore, they're walking.
They're working.
Or that they're walking time.
I see, yeah.
And they're walking.
Working.
They're jury.
Okay. So the reason it's called the path of preparation is because through these 4 phases, the names of which I can't remember off the top of my head, there's like heat, right? Patience.
Heat, peak, patience,
Peak,
and
patience,
supermundane
and
quality.
supermundane quality, right? The
Peak?
highest peak. 세워.
So,
Yeah.
다
So,
줘야 되나?
but just a minute. I want to finish what I was saying before. So he said it's called the path of preparation because it's difficult, to achieve the direct realization of emptiness. And as you go through those 4 stages of the path of preparation, you're working towards that direct realization. So it's preparation for the direct realization of emptiness.
Okay.
What are the 4 again? Heat, peak, patience, and
And
supermundane
yes.
quality.
Right.
supermundane quality.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make sure you get a copy of the text. It's in there.
나도 같이 있다. 저는 죄라 그래서 what we call 죄.
Yeah, so now he's asking why they're called heat, right?
Heat or peak.
Heat. Peak is say.
Oh, really? Yeah. 다 heat 라이드 가는다. dance, 데모스 데모스, 메버성이 heat 다 돈을 돈 받고서.
Yeah.
대 된지는 매대 다 가지고. 걔가 좀 뒤에 와서 아니 드레스. 매문에 데모스 댄스. 메버성이 매대 돈을 연주하시 돈도 들어와.
Okay, so the actual fire, which reduces or eliminates the grasping at the true existence of things or at self-grasping, is the path of seeing. But this one,
this was
this is the cause.
Cause of their mind.
So this path is called heat because it's the cause of the fire that actually incinerates, like self-grasping or grasping at the reality of things. So they call it heat because it's the cause of that. So it's not actually fire itself. 맹문의 말에.
맹은 usually this is real fire, right?
Right.
Then this will come from here. This come from here. This
Right.
come from here. This come from here.
Right.
He's first one we call fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you guys
This
understand?
is tonal. This is tonal.
Fingers.
This is tonal, right? You are
So that's the path of seeing, is the thumb.
and this is 춤춰.
So this is the supermundane quality, or dharma, what do you call it? Supermundane quality. So
So
yeah. So this is patience.
then what?
Peak.
세와.
Yeah.
So 죄와.
True. Heat.
다 죄도 그 push 나 내가 더 해다.
So
그 러시아로
So this is a common thing in a lot of Buddhist stuff, is naming the cause with the name of the result, in a way. Although heat leads to the fire, which is the path of seeing. And the point he's making is that each one of these stages depends on the one prior to it in order to, work. So they're calling this first one heat because it produces the fire, although they're separated by some stages in between. But the heat goes through all of them. So.
시당 누가 네 절에 이제 그가 therefore the order they caused, but they just call for him.
Right.
They give him.
So he's saying that in general, all 4 of those stages of the path of preparation are the cause, all of them together are the cause of the fire of the path of seeing, which actually incinerates, like, grasping at the reality of things or self-grasping. But they just call that first one heat, even though all 4 of them are together the cause of that fire.
그게 다 정말 되지. 다 때모
And now peak.
세모사대 다 세모 남토나 아니 록다게 다 게사 주메요 말스. 록다요.
Lokta, 하고서.
근데 가사제는 록다게나 다 그런 게 게사 좀 더워 말. 저한테 세모 내게 가사요. 잘 생각이 그런 게 록다게 와이나. 그래서 록다게 와이나요. 근데 록다게 그런 게 게사 좀 더워 말스.
Okay, so I think that what he's saying, if I understand, you listen and tell me if it sounds right. So it sounds like what he's saying is that Bodhisattva who has achieved peak, who's reached the level of peak, even if they generate wrong views, the wrong views that they generate don't diminish their roots of virtue. Geta.
No.
Yeah, they can't harm the roots of virtue, even if they generate a wrong view.
그래서 세모도 같이 들어와 있지.
So peak might not be the right word for this. Temo means like the tip also of something, like a knife. I think the edge you would call the temo. So he's saying they're called temo because it cuts.
톱니 딱 해서 쥐어야 돼. 딱 쥐어서 나오지.
Yeah, it's what cuts off the ability of wrong views to destroy your roots of virtue.
Okay?
Geshe Jamba Tekshok just says it's called peak because it's higher than the path of heat, than the heat phase, and so is the tip. It's higher up.
Yeah.
So that's his only. So he doesn't care about that.
I'm according to the Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
Where is this at?
Not that obvious. This is too short. This is a Jiu-Jitsu Junction. You know this. I just look into it, watch a commentary.
That's handy.
Yeah. You know, that's so
And now patience.
that dendro bashi de chishi, dendro leniji mishiva, so bas. Dendro bashi de they were only
in the happy migration, good migration. Yeah.
They never want to. What's it? Lemon is what?
No.
Linear? What is he saying?
Lemon.
Lengemba, yeah, bad karma, bad bad migration. Drongemba, right? Nyembedro.
Mindro.
Nyendro, yeah.
Mindro, takasо. Dendro bashi de.
Yeah.
Leniji wanga, mindro mikiwa zoba.
Okay, so they call this patience because the Bodhisattva who's achieved this stage is only born exclusively in good migration. So that means like a human rebirth or above, like in the Buddhist scheme of all the rebirths you can be born in, and they are no longer born under the sway of bad karma. Lengen. Yeah, so they've cut off the possibility of being born because of bad karma. So it's called patience. I don't know why, but tolerance is another. Yeah, forbearance is one. So I guess in a way, if you think of it as forbearance, maybe being able to there's negative karma there, but it can't really do anything.
Yeah.
You can kind of handle it. It's not going to cause you to be born in a bad generation. Yeah, so he's repeating again, like the possibility of being born in a bad migration due to your karma is cut off.
Okay.
So
not chicho. What do you call chicho?
Super mundane quality, or is that
That jiktembe.
Dharma?
Jiktembe chuna gata choya gata that chicho.
Okay, this one's pretty easy. So it's called the super mundane Dharma because it's the highest place in the world. Basically, I mean, it's the highest state in Jikten. Jikten is like not the world as in the earth, but in the existence that we know. So
Jikten 대바세 때 동반이 jikten 동반나 jikten 대바. 동반이 대면서 마토 하나 jikten 봤어.
Yeah, so yeah, basically he's saying like world in this case means like those people who have yet to realize emptiness directly, whatever they perceive we will call the world. And people who've realized emptiness directly, they're beyond that. So the highest or super mundane Dharma or whatever we're calling it, the chucho, it means basically they're at the farthest limits that you can go before you've actually transcended the world that is known by people who have not yet realized emptiness directly.
Okay? 다 덴디 존엄 다 주조바데 다 라서 말로. 다 쿠토바니 냠바 상이. 동바니 냠바 시라데 돈이스 남 또바나 아니 돈 줘서.
Here's one of the
냠바 처럼 meditation to emptiness. When you meditate emptiness, but when you understand emptiness, what is it?
directly.
You see the nam 또바나 when nam 또바나.
Yeah.
Then he become
Yeah. So this is the transition from the path of preparation to the path of seeing is also simultaneously a transition from being what's called an ordinary being to being an Arya or a superior. So this also is like his definition of the high supermundane quality or the highest stage of the path of preparation to. There's a distinction between the person who has yet to go to the path of seeing and the person who has, in terms of basically being ordinary or extraordinary in terms of their view. So he's saying when a person on the stage of the supermundane quality, I think that's the name in this translation anyway, enters equipoise on emptiness, meditative equipoise on emptiness, they actually, once their mind kind of has when they've directly realized emptiness, they immediately are in the path of seeing. So it's like in an instant during the meditative equipoise on emptiness, they'll have a moment where they do actually directly realize it, and now they are on the path of seeing, and they're also no longer an ordinary being.
Okay? Confused? Yeah.
I'm not confused. I just wanted to know if you could discuss the different types of bodhicitta as it progresses through that. Are there more than one? Just like we had 3 before?
Yeah, they have different ways. Okay. Also, they have 10 years. Do you guys want to learn?
Yeah, so
It's difficult.
he's saying there's a lot of definitions here in this bigger commentary, I think, that he could give us
Maybe you guys more difficult, yeah.
if you're interested. Maybe Tsultrim can borrow the book.
다 정말 다 제모 서봐 근데 치와 가려서 그 수수야 빠야 빠자고
Yeah.
지가 빠져를 때 here other one there 수수수 깔아 가가 이랬어.
So he's saying that basically these stages that we're going through also have, each one of them has something which is given up or abandoned, like which is left behind as you go through these stages. And they progress, they're progressive. So they go in sequence and they're gradual. So it's like going through part A, B, C, D, E. And at each step, there's something that you leave behind forever, in a way. So you're moving closer and closer as you go up there. Panja, I don't know how to say it in English. Really. Panja. Yeah, the thing which is given up or left behind, basically.
Okay, 근데 다 저는 제발 어떻게 semjela mi karta 그랬어.
Yeah, heat.
what we call the bodhicitta. 다 매달 semjis.
So the bodhicitta at the stage of heat is called the fire-like bodhicitta.
We have 22 bodhicitta, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe you guys know. Then second one is what is it? Sungpadapa. Sungpadapa.
Sungden.
Yeah.
Sungden.
Sungden. How say? Sungden.
Sungden. So sung is like even, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like the balanced or endowed with equanimity or something. Sung means like completely balanced out, like. So. So like a treasury, a great treasure.
Wait, so is that the balanced one or is it different?
So we went through true.
Yeah,
True. So the heat
Good
is
fire.
called fire-like. The
Peak.
같은 것도 해봐.
Tema di tsungwa
저뭐대 준비 파시도 주대.
Tsungden. So the peak is called even or balanced. I don't know how you would say
balance
it.
to
Can I see this?
뭐고? balance to 그렇지? 예. 준비 파시도 주대. 준비 파시기도 파시.
Then Terchenbo Tabu,
예. 때치.
Semke, Dumbala. Terchen is the same one name for all of it. It has a long name.
Yeah.
Jembe Parchen Dang Tsungdenki, Terchenbo Tabu, Semke, Dumbala. Yeah. So he's saying that this one, the bodhicitta at that stage, is called the treasure-like bodhicitta, which is endowed with equanimity and the perfection of giving.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay? This is the truth. Jemmo.
So that's peak.
다 줘봐. 다 rinpoche. 짐바 투tum. 짐바도 다 투tum. 투tum 다 투den지 rinpoche 주.
Yeah, this is good. So I can see how these, like, they're using kind of a sequence here going through the 6 perfections on these stages, and also the analogy given for each one. So the first one was like a great treasury, which is endowed with equanimity and the perfection of giving.
담보도 모두 조와도 투데서. 조 트레데 조와도 투데는 다 원면서 조라면서. 원면서 effort good.
Yeah.
조와도 투데 메타버스지. 근데 준비 파이도 투데시.
So the fire-like one has a longer name too,
Yeah.
which, anyway, but this one he's saying, like, the peak is called the great treasury-like one, which is endowed with the equanimity and the perfection of giving. Then the patience, right? Soba.
Yeah.
Soba is called the jewels,
No.
right?
투tum. 짐바 투tum. 거기서 짐바 투tum.
So
투tum
yeah,
투든지 jewels.
yeah, the jewels.
Yeah, jewels.
So it's the jewel-like bodhicitta, which is endowed with the perfection of ethical discipline.
Yeah. 다 짐바 투tum. 저바. 다 저바 투든지 점초다 없었지. 오십.
This soba magedi.
대 투tum. 담보 짐바 투tum. 다 저바.
So the
매대 조바.
jewel.
조바 투든나 아니 maybe effort. Not
So-
effort here effort about something.
Yeah, preparation, right. So I think the fire-like one is actually for the entire path of preparation. It's like a general term that the
Yeah,
bodhicitta
general.
on the path of preparation is called fire-like bodhicitta. And then these are actually, we're going to have to, if you're writing notes, I'm sorry, you have to cross things out
Yeah,
and
of
make
course.
arrows. The perfection of giving is heat, and the
see.
perfection of ethical discipline is peak. And now we're at patience. So Soba?
You finish.
Yeah, Soba.
조바 점초다 없었지.
Gyantsu.
점초 오십.
Oh, Gyatsu. Yeah.
점초.
So the ocean-like bodhicitta.
Yeah, bodhicitta. This is the fourth bodhicitta true. 조노.
Dine di Soba. Dine Chucho.
저거 주죠. sorry. 춘조다 주되지. 다 존지. 뭐 존지 주되지. 도지다.
Vajra-like. So the super mundane quality is called the Vajra-like bodhicitta.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you have the treasury, the treasury-like, the jewel-like, the ocean-like, and the Vajra-like.
What's the ocean like?
The ocean-like one is the patience. And can I see?
He gives the jewel, okay.
Gyatsu dobu senke di parchin chik yorube
Yeah, soba.
soba.
Yeah.
And again, the Superman name is called, what did you say?
Vajra-like.
Vajra.
춘조 soba. Dorje is not 춘조.
No, never mind.
Okay, you guys gonna have to like take
First-
off with
first-
Geshe-la.
Okay,
So
first,
now we're revising again.
first one we call meditative.
So the first one we call the fire-like bodhicitta.
대 조화도 tun데 조화.
That's for the path of preparation in general.
아, 조화. 되지. 다 제목.
So peak.
백도 tun데
그냥 쳐봐 이 말이.
제
제목.
최대 메달 생기로. 다 못들어.
대 조화.
조화도 tun데 좀 메달 되지. 조화. 조화도 tun데 시 최대조 제 주바위치 생기라. 아니 메달 생기.
Okay. So jorwa in this case is not. Yeah. So this jorwa is not actually the path of preparation.
Yeah, no.
It's like tsundu, which is another perfection, which is effort. So diligent effort. So he's saying that the first one is called the fire-like bodhicitta, which has preparation and diligent effort. 조화당 tsundu. Tsunde. Okay. So that's heat. So then the first one for heat has is the fire-like bodhicitta endowed with equanimity and diligent effort. The second one, peak, is the
Jewel-like.
No, the treasury.
Treasury-like, yeah.
The treasury-like bodhicitta endowed with equanimity and the perfection of giving, and then sopa. Yeah. Sopa is the one that is the jewel-like bodhicitta endowed with ethical discipline. And then the supramundane quality is the ocean-like bodhicitta endowed with the perfection of patience.
Okay, I got all four.
Go slowly, do it again, because
Okay.
it's too much.
I
That
need
one
to-
was the right one, this one right here.
I need to actually write it down myself.
Right, you want me to write it down? You want to go?
Yeah, you go through it.
Okay.
You got it all.
So at the phase of heat, it's the fire-like bodhicitta that is endowed with equanimity and diligent effort.
Yeah.
At the phase of the peak, it is the treasury-like bodhicitta endowed with equanimity and the perfection of giving.
Yeah.
At the third one, so the patience phase, it is jewel-like bodhicitta endowed with ethical discipline.
Yeah.
And at the supramundane quality phase, it is ocean-like bodhicitta endowed with the perfection of patience.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Now you got it?
I think it was causing some confusion because
Yeah.
patience is one of the perfections, but also it's the name of one of the phases. So I was saying, what about patience? And then he was saying, that one is
Who's on first?
supramundane quality. And I was like, no, like, yeah. So,
What's
Okay.
on second?
okay.
Now you got this. Curse. Oh. The name of the Bodhicitta, right? Now if you guys want to that, now the maybe it's too difficult. Yeah. Maybe just we skip the thing.
So the definition of this,
Maybe too complicated. It's okay.
this Chisenchuki Gyosen book sounds really great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like exhaustive.
Yeah, this is a very good commentary. We
What?
studied this many years. We just this book studied maybe 7
Yikcharu.
each other.
This is the textbook from
This is
Sarah
from
J.
Sarah J.
Yeah.
In the monastery, the
He
monks.
probably has it memorized. So.
I remember maybe half this, then I forget it. And this is a very good to
So it's good for. So ngunto game gi dela dun dela dunsa.
Yeah, composed
Oh yeah, Haribhadra.
Oh,
So,
Haribhadra.
so he's saying that this is very good. This is a very good companion to the commentary on the Abhisamaya Alamkara by Haribhadra.
Yeah.
So
This is all Saraji monks studied this, then they all this. They took debate to the other monasteries.
the Abhisamaya Alamkara is a text which basically condenses all of the systematic teachings of all of the Prajnaparamita literature into a very short, pithy text that people used to memorize in India.
Yeah,
But that's
usually-
the basis of Long Rim too, right?
Yeah.
Mutogen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is also usually composed just tree, that is short,
Yeah.
it's a little longer. Then I've done this a little bit, more.
Yeah.
More understand, more makes sense. This is too short, we don't understand what's going on. Now we can just keep two, just one, tray.
Mhm.
Tray can think it, I can say.
So he will give us one of the definitions, which will be for the heat on the path of preparation. Ridik Jangsemgi Jola.
tray. 다 장생지 저랑 방법 가능시.
So what is the first correct
가능시면서
Kangche, how many?
No.
What?
It is first. It is first the
It is what is first on the Bodhisattva's
Yeah.
path of preparation.
preparation.
Yeah.
Then 시럽 끈이 뉴모스 또 왼쪽은 준비 네가 도비 람지르스 네바라스
Let me see. Maybe I can read
Okay,
it.
you get it here.
Okay.
Start here, okay? You don't need to read this one. Just read this.
Okay.
This is more difficult. This is, I think, shouldn't go to the study there. This is not just
Okay, so the definition of the Mahayana path, heat of on the so the definition of heat on the Mahayana path of preparation is the Raktu Chela, the Ming, the
what is it?
Raktu Chela,
Yeah, this is
Chela, the
this is not, you don't need to rub just forget this.
okay. So it is the person who is of the class of being on a path which has obtained the ability to defeat
거기서 시럽 끈이 뉴모스도.
the nyomon suntok unhyur be jombe nuba
Yeah,
tobe lam.
yeah, develop just then.
Right. Okay. So the path in which one obtains the ability to defeat or overcome, manifestly overcome the nyomon suntok, like the
시럽 끈이 뉴모스도.
yeah shaded kune nyomon
Yeah, this is
suntok. So the obscurations of let's see, awareness. I don't know how to say shaded. There's two, shaded and yunted, right?
Yeah.
So shaded is like the obscurations that are to consciousness or awareness. So it's like actually a functional problem with being able to know things the way that they are. And yuntip is like the obscurations that are caused by afflictions. So like anger and attachment and those types of things. So you have basically two sets of afflictions that you're trying to overcome on the path. So this one has where you have obtained the ability, you have manifestly obtained the ability to overcome the shadib, so the obscurations of awareness, and kunenyomon suntok. So the, I don't know how to say suntok. So
It's mind.
yeah, it's like the perception or conceptual awareness which is thoroughly afflicted.
It's okay, it's too complicated.
Yeah. So
It's not our job. This is the Geshe's job, okay? But even the Geshe's studied, they are not different study. Same this, we are very fortunate, We just, you guys also just heard that this book. All of this, very fortunate, This we say, the great master, the Geshe is very famous guys also. Study this, they are not different.
yeah.
It's too complicated, just forget. Then he said, what's the shit? What's the continuous?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. So he's saying, like, when you read this sentence, then you have to ask yourself, oh, what is shaded? Like, what is a obscuration of awareness, and what is a thoroughly afflicted, conceptuality? Like, then you have to go into those, and then you have to go into all the terms that are used to define those, and it's like, yeah, it gets very
Anyway,
complicated.
we know the 4 different
Mm.
genres. We know what bodhicitta they have.
Mhm.
We know why they call their names.
Mm.
That's it.
So these are basically, we're just getting basic information,
Yeah.
and then we'll build off of that in the future, hopefully.
Okay, then we start next time to Pala.
Okay, so we'll start the path of the Aryas next time.
Also, we call Gache Thomasam Sosa. 같이 가와통에서는 쳤어. You have to Buddhism, you have to meditate 3 years.
Oh yeah. So 3 immeasurable eons. You have to amass merit in order to achieve Buddha.
근데 나 샤슨 손도 정원이 내가 가와통을 쳐. 가와통을 쳐.
I think he just said that in the Bodhisattva's path of accumulation. I think Tong.
손도 정원. First.
Yeah.
그런데 that time 가와통을 쳐.
Kawatombe.
가와통부.
Okay. So the
쳐.
first.
right?
Yeah, the
같이
first immeasurable eon is passed on the first 2, the path of accumulation and path of preparation for a bodhisattva. Yeah. So he's saying like when you're a bodhisattva, at the time of doing these 2 paths, you pass one innumerable or immeasurable eon, which is actually like a bunch of eons, like without number in one bunch.
When we talk the eons, number the body. Too long therefore. Okay, now we stop. Then just remember that what they call the names, what the names, what they call the names, what the bodhicitta are there. This is enough. And to detect them are our job. And the Geshe is 10 months job. Maybe it's here to do that.
Sutram, you should translate this textbook when you're in Sarah.
In my free time.
You'll have years, man. You'll be there forever.
This child already there.
Really?
The black monk? You guys know the black monk?
I don't know.
Maybe they don't know.
What's that?
The black monk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Jampa.
told you this one.
Wow.
No, he Jampa.
He's translated
Translated
the
that.
textbook
Well, he's coming here.
on Sam.
Oh really? No, not that Jampa. The early translated for Geshe-la, the other Jampa.
Long
The
term.
early translators come on.
Are you saying that?
No, he is.
Oh really?
Yeah.
So we ask him whether he translated it.
He said he thinks he did.
Okay, well he's coming. We can ask him. He's coming to visit.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
He did this. I think he told me he translated this. Maybe half. Anyway. So okay. Now we stop. You have any questions? Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
The heat, does this have any relation to the practice of Tummo Yoga?
Die Chobe sa, Chobe lam, the Tumo dang dewa yorbe.
대가 고메.
Yeah, he doesn't know about that.
대가도 tumuk세대야 수수 기본이 아니지. 지금 멤버스에 지도록 가로서.
Yeah. So he's saying like when you practice Tumo, there's some kind of like inner fire that you generate in your body. I've asked actually the same question once before to another Geshe, really old Geshe, and he said no. He said the heat is just a metaphor, like a name. It doesn't actually, you don't get hot when you practice heat. It means like the heat which is going to burn away afflictions. So it's a metaphorical name, not a... Yeah, so he's saying this is a heat which burns the darkness or obscuration, so it's metaphorical.
Okay, this is finished.
Thank you, Krishna.
You're welcome.